and welcome back to the show, Neurodiversity with Theo, Smith and friends, where we explore the people, the ideas and movements shaping a more inclusive world. Today we're thrilled to have Stephen Ingram join us, a change maker who's redefining how organizations approach neurodiversity. Stephen is actually the founder of Neurodiversity Together, and he's had 15 years of experience in change management and deeply personal journey of being neurodivergent and a neurodivergent family, a neurodivergent dad. So Stephen brings a unique and actionable perspective on what it means to embed neuro-inclusive practices, from designing culture-shifting strategies to building end-to-end neurodivergent employee experiences. Stephen can help you with all those things. So we'll dive into his story, his mission, and how we can all work together to create a lasting change and positive impact. So, Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Theo. Really great to be here.
Absolute pleasure. And we got to meet at an event in the last couple of months, and you joined me in a session that I delivered, and you were really engaged and asking some really great questions. So it's a pleasure to get you on today. Stephen, do you just want to give people, I mean, I've given the kind of the basic high level, what Stephen is, who he is, what he's about, but start to get into some of the journey, the story. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Stephen.
Yeah, sure. So, where to start, really? I'll tell you what, I'll start off with a bit about my company, and then we can start to look at my journey and other things like that. So, I started Neurodiversity Together last year, and it basically is exactly what the name says. It doesn't look at just how to do neurodiversity just as a neurodivergent person, or doesn't say to a business you've got to make adjustments for a neurodivergent person only. You've got to think about everybody involved in the process. It isn't only about the neurodivergent person, but what challenges might exist for, let's say, a manager of a neurodivergent person. What challenges might exist, let's say, at school, not only for a parent, for a teacher, for other pupils around them. It's really about looking at a workplace, how I would have done from a consultancy project around something like change, process, culture, but applying those same principles to making neurodiversity at work something that will benefit the entire workforce, something that will help make people more productive, help make companies more money because of it, help empower people, help people have much more fulfilling and also rewarding careers. I'm sure that you're aware of some of the stats that are out there. The fact that over 70% of autistic adults in the UK are unemployed. The fact that study by Genus found that between 2022 and 2023, only 6% of disabled people in the workplace earned more than £30,000. The fact that studies estimate that by companies not being neuro-inclusive costs UK businesses approximately £26 billion a year. The fact that not implementing mental health support properly costs companies around 42 to 45 billion a year. Companies must realise that neurodiversity at work isn't only the right thing to do, but it's about helping make their entire workforce more productive. It's not about seeing this cost as an expense. It's about seeing it as really investing and about thinking and questioning how we can do work differently to make each of us succeed in our own way.
Absolutely. And what's been the driver then? So all of those things that you've talked about, all of the positive changes you want to influence and impact within organizations. And I love the concept of together, because so often when we talk about neurodiversity and neurodivergence, we start to get into labels and traits and actually othering, this person in that box, that person in that box. But thinking about that more broadly as neurodiversity being everyone, facing these challenges together is fantastic. What was the personal journey for this, Stephen? What has led you on 15 years as a management consultant? What drove you to completely transform your world? I guess still delivering consultancy and advisory services, right? So not changed from that perspective, but to really double down on neuro-inclusion and neurodiversity together.
So I think really what drove me to do it was my own experiences throughout life, whether that be diagnosis, school, uni, the workplace, and the support that I was given in each, and just realizing, actually, why aren't people doing some of the stuff that I'm thinking of, which to me was so obvious, but yet I never saw anyone else doing it. To give a very, very quick summary, I was diagnosed with autism in the late 90s when I was about 11 or 12. At that point, it wasn't a concept spoken about in schools or in public at all. I didn't really know what it meant. I knew some very, very high level characteristics of the condition, but I didn't really understand how it affected me. I went throughout school, throughout uni, and throughout the first 10 years of my working life, not really knowing, just sort of going along with it. But then in 2018, I thought, you know what? I can see the same things happening to myself over and over. It would be a good idea to get myself not reassessed, but to get some help. So I saw a psychiatrist. I started some meds that helped me. But then the psychiatrist also said, maybe you've also got ADHD. And I then got my ADHD diagnosis in the autumn of 2019. But it was only really from around that time. But I went from really um, acknowledging that I had these conditions, to really understanding about how it makes me in both the good ways, the bad ways, how it can make me different on a day-to-day basis, how to be kinder to myself because I now know myself a lot better. I think that throughout work especially, I saw a lot of support out there that I was led to believe was the gold standard. But yet I thought, this support doesn't necessarily help me. It doesn't speak to me. It might help other people, fair enough. But actually, if it's not helping me, I would put some good money on it that there are many others who feel exactly the same way. And when I say support, I'm talking about things like um, tools, templates, guidance documents, training, tech, and many other things like that. That's not to say that everything I find hasn't been helpful or that things I haven't found helpful, other people might not find helpful. Everyone is different after all. But actually, for me, there were some fundamental flaws. But actually, if a few things can be changed, it will make a massive, massive difference. And I'll give you an example of that now. Disclosure is a really, really fascinating topic that comes up a heck of a lot at the moment. When I've spoken to neurodivergent people throughout my career about how they've disclosed, what they've disclosed, so on and so forth, quite often they'll tell me their story about who they are and they won't mention anything good, which I then say, well, what does your condition give you that is more amazing than anyone else? And they'll say, I'd never really thought about that before. And I said, but if you disclose and if you only tell somebody at work everything that isn't good because of your condition, how can you expect them to really help you? And they said, that's a really good point. And I've done that too. Like I said, it wasn't until 2018 when I started to really learn what my condition meant for me, but I started to realize there were some really unique and good things that I'd taken for granted that actually are really amazing skills.
Absolutely, and that really resonates with me, Stephen, because I not only had I heard people talk about themselves from a negative perspective, but I felt that was that came from a place of how others had perceived them. You know, like others had told them, "Oh, you know, you're not very organised. Oh, you're not very good at this. You're not very good at that." And you have it long enough that you then struggle to find good things about yourself because people are telling you you're too noisy, you're too disruptive, you're too naughty, you're too disorganized, you can't spell, you know, the list of things that gets put upon you. And it starts to make you feel like there's not much good about yourself. And I think that is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to others, is to remind them that every single human on this planet has significant value. They just may need to get help to be able to bring that value out and for them to be able to see it in themselves, because maybe their experiences have not been very nice up until that point.
Yeah, fully. And actually, that's a really, really good point. I think that out of all the jobs I've had in my career, starting my own company has been the first time where I have truly felt like I can be my real self in the workplace. How I have felt a massive, massive burden lifted off me because I'm not getting marked down for my organization skills being different, for thinking in a very out of the box way. for just really being myself on a day-to-day basis.
And that's massive, and I agree with you. And you know, the need to always, no matter, even if you know better yourself, that this, in this moment in time, I'm not going to be able to get this piece of work done because I know my frame of mind is not in the right space or place. In the past, I would have been in situations where I'm in an environment where I've still got to do it. I've got to do it no matter what, because the whole team's there, sat there, and it's like you're doing it. Being able to make some of those decisions yourself, I don't think we have enough of that in organizations where you can lean out and go, actually, I need to go and do something different. I need to go and have a meeting walking outside, and not feel the pressure of people thinking I'm going on my jolly. But in actual fact, I just
Totally.
need to move and I just need fresh air and I need to have a meeting in a different style, a different way, because my brain is becoming a bit foggy and I'm going to struggle to do other stuff. So I need to change it up. I need to move. And like too often, you get caught in a cycle of not being good to yourself and not doing the things you require to get the best out of yourself. And being your own manager in that perspective is transformative. And I think we learn a lot about ourselves in those moments, right?
We do fully. I mean, I've worked at companies who have often boasted about their neuro-inclusive successes, but yet at these same companies, I quite often felt like I was being frowned on just for going out for a walk at lunch, or just for being myself in the workplace, for realizing that the office was too noisy, moving to go somewhere else in it. And actually, the interesting thing about having started my own company is, number one, it took me a very long time to get over some of the unintentional nastiness, discrimination, whatever you want to call it, that I faced throughout my career, to have the confidence to set up on my own, but also even now, I still have that inner voice every day saying to me, you're not good at enough to do 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 this, because I've been told that so much about various bits of work I've done in my career, which in all fairness weren't bad at all. They were very good, but because they hadn't been understood properly or understood why I was working in that particular way. And by the way, to counter that, I do know that I am very good at what I do from feedback that I've had from clients, from contributing to the Buckland report, from being um, 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 referenced by a current cabinet minister when I was at an event at the Commons the other day. But yet, despite all of those successes and many more, that overriding voice just still eating away at me. I know that I've got a lot of work to do still to really grow and to rid myself of the scars of just having grown up as somebody with autism, ADHD, stammer, anxiety, low self-esteem, mental health challenges, and many more things.
Well, that's a good segue and a good point there around some of the experiences and trauma that we have that come from early years of experience, right? Whether that's in school, whether that's the way we were treated by teachers, community leaders, other children, experiences of feeling less than in terms of the work that we were required to do. and not always being good at the stuff we were expected to be good at, or delivering it in a way that was being asked of us. And we're all different from that perspective, right? So those early life experiences will be very different. But now coming to Stephen, the business leader, Stephen, the management consultant with 15 years of experience, Stephen, the dad. How is that transition and that experience of going from somebody who has faced some of the barriers, faced some of the stigma, had some of the past trauma through life experiences, and now they have a young children family as a dad who's ADHD and autistic? Talk to us a little bit about that, because I know a lot of parents struggle, a lot of parents find it difficult with the complexity of the family, and it takes a different focus, right? And we're still expected to do work, we still expect to do everything we did before, and now we have this extra complexity around our lives. Talk to us a little bit around that point.
Yeah, fully. And like I mentioned before, everyone is very, very, very different. I know that you've had guests who are neurodivergent parents themselves to neurodivergent children who experience things very, very differently to me. But for me, sleep is something that can really, really affect me. And with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, getting several wake ups in the middle of the night for the last 5 years hasn't been uncommon. And actually, when I was employed, I was finding that through having that broken sleep, it really affected me the next day. I couldn't properly focus on my work. Mentally, or sorry, physically, I was awake, but mentally, I couldn't put everything in my head together to get some of the stuff that I needed done. I've also found that parenting is very fatiguing for me. Don't get me wrong, both of my sons are very, very loved, and I would like to think that they would say they have a good life. My wife is all, 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 also a brilliant wife, but an absolutely amazing mum. So from that point of view, forgive me, I've lost myself in my thought, but from that point of view, it's not a case of not being able to cope, but it's a case of, with the kids, with the additional noise, with the additional mess around the house, I've realised that my conditions haven't changed, but the manifestation of them, the reaction to those additional noises or things around me has. I mean, with my oldest son, for example, when I started taking him to nursery, um, when I was still working for a company, if the nursery slash school traffic was bad on the way home, I might not get home until, let's say, 10 to 9, 5 to 9. And if I then had to jump on a 9 o'clock call, which for one particular project I did, I was often criticised for not being necessarily fully with it. But actually, the sensory overload of all of the school traffic, which is stressful for anyone, actually sort of, I needed time to sort of relax before I started work, but didn't have that time available to me. And actually, as a parent, that's something that I found. But actually, flexibility is really important for me, and that I need to give myself that time to really think, to decompress, to do things differently, to do things so that they can work for me.
Yeah, yeah, I get it, and that's one of the challenging things, being able to get the mind ready. You know, like
Mm,
if you're going to do exercise, if you lift a really heavy weight without stretching, right, you're going to pull a muscle in your back,
definitely.
and you might not pull the muscle lifting the heavy weight. You might pull the muscle afterwards when you lift up something very light, or you
Yeah,
stretch for something. So the brain is not so different, right? The brain is a muscle in that context. If it's not prepared, and we all need to prepare our brains differently, if you then try and challenge it with something really complex and deep without first getting it ready, then ultimately it can struggle, it can break. And for somebody like me, that may mean I literally just go, oh, like I can't just, everybody get out of my way. I need
mm,
to get out of this room. Like I can't breathe. I just need to stop everything. And I think um, that's that's not always understood by others. It's not understood that you need to get the car warm before you can drive it. It's like, no, 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 no. You just press go and off you go. Well, some people can do that,
mhm.
but other people need to be warmed up, and then they can do incredible things. They can solve complex problems, but they need the time space to be able to achieve that. And often in organizations, Stephen, they don't do it, do they? They don't give it.
They don't. They really, really don't. And I think actually that's something quite interesting um, about the status quo of modern day workplace actually, and also how job roles are desi- are designed, created, manifested, so on and so forth. And I think and something that I've spoken about in many discussions has been, how can you optimize a job description for a neurodivergent person in this instance who, like me, has very, very poor um, e- executive functioning, such as planning and organization skills. And companies like, well, we haven't really thought about that before because we need everyone to have a certain standard of each of these. And I'm like, but what if you're only focused on, in my case, for example, only the things that I'm really good at? What would a job description look like then? How would that bring money into your company? And companies are quite often stumped because it's such a different way of working to how their organization has been set up for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. It's not an easy task.
Absolutely. And I just very simply, I used to always miss appointments. Especially appointments that weren't immediate. So, like if it wasn't in this week, for example, like a dentist appointment or a doctor's appointment, I used to miss them all the time. After around university and afterwards, I used to often get kicked out of dentists. I used to get fined, all kinds of things, right? Because I couldn't remember them, and so now the world has changed significantly. I mean, we had diaries then, but I'd forget which diary, where I put it, where I wrote it. Well, I just could not structure stuff. Now, they not only can I put it in multiple diaries, but they'll also message me. You know, they'll
Mm,
text me a couple of days before. Sometimes they might even text you a week before, and then they'll text you the day before. Like that's such a simple adaptation. The cost of me not turning up to an appointment is significant to them, right? But in the past, they put the onus on me, right?
mm,
So I'm the one who's forgetting. I'm the problem. But the loss of money for me not turning up is on them. The bigger
mm,
cost. So, like, it makes sense then that they find a mechanism to ensure that people either turn up or they let them know they're not going to turn up, right? And by
Yeah,
them making the change their side, as well as us using technology and innovation to try and make the two of you means much less likely of failure. Organizations
definitely.
and systems processes change exactly the same. Yes, we need employees to come along with some ideas and to be willing and to want to be able to plug some of the gaps. But we absolutely need organizations who are complaining that employees are not productive enough. Who's losing the money? The company is losing the money. So why are they not working harder to go, well, if we just thought about some of those adaptations, then the employee is not going to forget to turn up to these meetings, or they're not going to forget to deliver this by X time, or they're not going to struggle with their executive functioning because we put in all these complex systems and processes that they really find difficult to know where am I supposed to be, when am I supposed to be there, and how do I deliver it, and why do I deliver it? It's just it for me, breaking it down that simply, it's common sense.
Totally.
Yet we still put the pressure on the employee, blame the employee, sack the employee.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Simply, in many cases, yes. I think though, you mentioned a really interesting point, which is around um, product productivity. How can you really measure productivity of anyone in the workplace? And actually, there are a lot of organizations who have a standard measure of how productive someone is. But actually, the true productivity may be hidden in a metric or a stat that isn't even gained or looked at or considered. Could it be as well that a neurodivergent person could be more productive in, let's say, 3 or 4 days of working than someone else could be in, let's say, 5 days of working? However, if a neurodivergent person working for a company went down to 3 days a week, they would only get paid for 3 days a week. It's a case of there are so many hypotheticals that are out there, so many questions that are really exciting to explore, so many things that can make people think differently. Don't get me wrong, for everybody, the approach or the answer may be or may look very different. But actually, just even starting that thinking process off, for me, that's one of the most exciting things about what I'm currently doing.
Brilliant. And so, as we bring today's session to a close, let's just think about the future, Stephen. What are you excited about? What are you looking forward to? 2025 is upon us, and what are you hopeful for in the space of neurodiversity, neuro-inclusion, and the work that you're doing?
I think that there's a lot to celebrate around the brilliant work that many people like yourself are currently doing. I think for me, the exciting thing is helping, or not even helping, but working to spread my message and to spread my approaches to more people, to more clients, to really not to really start making people think about existing processes and how to improve or grow them, as opposed to how to reinvent or change them. And an example is I was having a chat to a manager um, the other week, and they were saying that they had somebody who had disclosed a condition to them. And I said, okay, fine. So what did they tell you? And the person I was speaking to said, yep, they told me all about their condition, so on and so forth. And I said, did they tell you what it felt like? And the manager said no. And I said, well, did you ask them what it felt like? They said, well, I haven't really thought to ask. And I said, well, what if you had asked them what it felt like? Felt like on a daily basis, felt like when things were a bit worse, a bit better. Would that have helped give you a better picture of their of them with a condition? They're like, actually, yeah, it really would have done. For me, the changes, the excitement that I see are in helping to grow that foundation as opposed to reinvent it, to also actually, as part of the togetherness, get neurodivergent people, but also their managers to start thinking about, what does somebody disclosing mean for a manage for a manage it. It's so easy to forget about the manager's feelings about how a disclosure story might affect them, maybe in terms of families or friends that they've grown up with, maybe in terms of they're really worried about what they do next and how they help most of all next. It's that sort of stuff that I'm excited about, really. And also excited about helping companies realize how they can use neuro-inclusion to help to enable better behaviors, better working practices, a more warm, friendly, inclusive culture amongst their entire workplace.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think that's a lovely way to bring it to a close today, because it
Thank you.
plays right into the together piece, which is not to forget the impact on the wider population of people in communities, other family members, managers who may have a lot of care and respect for their fellow employee, but just not know what to do and not have the headspace to do it. So what are organizations doing to create that space, to create the support, to create the opportunity for managers to be able to do the right thing by their fellow employees? Because if you're not doing that, then unfortunately, with all the best will and intention, it's not going to be together. It's going to be in silos, and we're not going to solve this wider challenge that we have the incredible opportunity to solve in the next year. So, Stephen, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, where can people reach out to you if they want to connect?
So they can reach me on LinkedIn. If you Google search Stephen Van Ingram Neurodiversity Together, my name will come up. Or they can contact me through my website, which is long overdue an update, which is neurodiversity together, one word, .com.
Brilliant. So urge you connect with Stephen. Like I say, real pleasure having you on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for having me, Theo.
Pleasure.